Welcome to ESL listening practice. If you're listening to this, you know you're probably waiting for a magical spark of motivation to finally master English.
Yeah, you're waiting for that morning where you wake up, the sun is shining, and you suddenly have this unstoppable desire to study grammar for 3 hours.
Right, exactly. Well, we have some bad news for you today. That spark. It's a complete lie.
It really is.
In fact, waiting for it is the exact reason you might be feeling stuck right now. Believing that feeling motivated is the requirement for taking action is actually slowing you down.
It's completely backwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we are constantly taught by society, by movies, by social media, to just wait for this overwhelming feeling of inspiration.
Oh, absolutely.
But the reality of our research and what we found in our own personal insights into human behavior is that if you wait for motivation to strike, you might literally be waiting forever. Yeah, it's a psychological illusion. And it traps so many incredibly smart, capable people, especially when they're taking on a massive long-term project like learning a new language.
Exactly. And that's really our core mission for today's conversation. For you, the listener, we're going to explore this counterintuitive concept, and we'll do it using simple, clear English.
Right, because we want to help you understand exactly why motivation is holding you back.
Yeah, and since this is designed for intermediate learners, right around that B2 level, we're going to naturally unpack any, complicated vocabulary words we use along the way.
We really want to push your English comprehension further while also completely changing the way you look at your own goals.
Which brings us perfectly to our very first major concept. When we spent months looking through the research on human behavior and long-term success, we realized we could define the concept of motivation with one specific, powerful word.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
And that word is unreliable.
Unreliable. That is such a fantastic descriptive word to start with.
It really is. So let's think about the word unreliable for a second. You probably know the root verb there, which is rely.
Right. To rely on something means you depend on it.
Exactly. You trust it completely. For instance, you rely on your alarm clock to wake you up for work. If it works every single morning without fail, it's reliable.
But when we attach that prefix un to the beginning.
Yeah, the un, it flips the meaning entirely to not.
Precisely. It changes the entire nature of the word. So unreliable means you absolutely cannot trust it to be there when you need it.
I mean, it might show up today, but it could completely vanish tomorrow.
Think of an unreliable car. Maybe on Monday you turn the key, the engine roars to life, and you drive to work feeling great.
But on Tuesday, it's raining, you have an important meeting, you turn the key, and
nothing happens. The engine is dead. You're stuck.
Right. You wouldn't want to plan your daily commute around a car like that.
And we're connecting this exact concept directly to our findings about motivation. Motivation is that exact same broken, unreliable car.
You just cannot trust it.
You can't. You can't plan your life around it. You can't build your career on it. And you certainly cannot plan your journey to English fluency around it.
This is such a critical, freeing realization for language learners, honestly. When you finally accept that motivation is fundamentally biologically unreliable, you stop blaming yourself when it inevitably disappears.
Yes, you have to stop sitting at your desk thinking, oh no, there must be something deeply wrong with me today because I don't feel like practicing my English vocabulary.
Right, like it's a personal failure.
Exactly. But there is nothing wrong with you at all. Motivation is simply an unreliable force by its very nature. It's not a reflection of your character.
So it's just a fluctuating chemical state in your brain.
That's exactly what it is.
So we've firmly established that motivation is unreliable. But why? Why does it fluctuate so wildly?
That's the big question.
Right, like why does it change from day to day or even from hour to hour? To truly understand this, our research showed that we need to stop thinking of motivation as a personality trait.
It's not a permanent part of who you are.
Instead, it helps to compare motivation to everyday human moods. Motivation is just a mood.
What's fascinating here is how incredibly closely tied motivation is to our immediate physical and emotional state. I mean, think about what a mood actually is.
Right, it's temporary.
Exactly. A mood is a temporary state of mind. You can be in a joyful mood, an irritable mood, a melancholic mood.
And these moods shift constantly based on tiny, sometimes invisible things happening in your environment.
And motivation behaves in the exact same biological way. It feels incredibly powerful when it's there, but it lacks permanence. It does not last.
Let's get specific here. I want to break down some of the specific research points we gathered on how completely random external factors dictate this so-called motivation mood.
Oh, it's almost frightening how much physical things change this invisible feeling inside of us.
Take sleep, for example. Good, high-quality sleep. If you get 8 hours of perfect, uninterrupted, deep sleep, you wake up the next morning and your motivation levels are through the roof.
You feel energized.
Right. You feel like you can conquer the world, learn 10 languages, and run a marathon.
The biological foundation for that is very strong. When you are fully rested, your brain has the physical energy, the actual glucose, to look forward to difficult, complex tasks.
So your prefrontal cortex, the logical planning part of your brain, is fully charged.
Exactly. But let's flip the scenario. What happens when you experience a high level of stress?
Oh, man.
Maybe your boss moved up a massive deadline at work, or you just got a surprisingly high electricity bill and you're worried about money.
Our findings show that this kind of daily stress leads directly, almost instantly, to less motivation.
Exactly. Because your brain is completely occupied.
Right. Your brain's threat detection system takes over.
It's so busy processing the stress, so busy worrying about the work deadline or the money, that it simply shuts down the desire to do anything extra.
So the cognitive load, the amount of mental effort you're using just to survive the day, is totally maxed out.
Right. So the idea of sitting down to study English grammar feels impossible.
And then there is the ultimate motivation killer, which we've all experienced.
Oh, the bad day.
The objectively bad day. It starts the moment you wake up. You spill hot coffee all over your clean shirt.
The worst.
You rush out the door and literally watch your bus drive away without you. You get to work late, and your manager criticizes you in front of your team.
By the time you finally unlock your front door and step inside your home at 6:00 p.m., a bad day means absolutely zero motivation.
None. The idea of opening an English textbook isn't just unappealing, it's almost physically painful. Your motivation tank is completely empty.
And this is the ultimate psychological trap that people fall into without realizing it. Think about the danger here.
Yeah.
If your actions, your studying, your reading, your speaking practice depend entirely on how well you slept, or whether or not your boss was nice to you, or whether or not you spilled your coffee,
Then you have absolutely no control over your own progress.
none. You are surrendering your future. You are letting totally random external events decide whether or not you achieve your life goals.
Which is a terrifying way to live if you have big ambitions. And it leads us perfectly to another excellent piece of vocabulary for our listeners to master today.
Let me guess. Inconsistent.
Yes, the word inconsistent.
Inconsistent. This is a very powerful word in the realm of personal development. Similar to unreliable, we have another negative prefix here.
Right, the in, which means not.
And the base word consistent means acting the exact same way over a long period of time.
So if you wake up at 6 a.m. every single morning, 365 days a year, you are highly consistent.
Exactly. If you practice English every single evening, you are consistent.
So naturally, inconsistent means changing frequently. It means not acting the same way every time.
There's no rhythm. There's no pattern you can rely on.
If you study English for 3 massive hours on Monday because you feel great, but then you study 0 hours on Tuesday, 0 hours on Wednesday, and maybe just 20 minutes on Thursday.
Your study habits are wildly inconsistent.
And being inconsistent is the direct, unavoidable result of relying on motivation.
Because we just proved that motivation changes every single day based on random things like sleep and stress.
Right, so your actions will also change every single day if they are tied to that feeling.
We found a very specific scenario in our research that perfectly illustrates this trap. We refer to it as the English learner example.
I want to spend some time on this example because I think every single person listening to this right now has lived through this exact scenario.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's put you, the listener, right into the story. Imagine you finally decide, this is it. I am really going to master English this year.
It's day one of your new goal. You feel this massive wave of excitement.
You are highly motivated. So you sit down at your desk, you organize your pens, you study for 2 solid hours.
You make 50 new vocabulary flashcards. You listen to a long audio lesson. You practice speaking out loud in the mirror.
You go to bed that night feeling like an absolute champion.
But then reality sets in. Day 2 arrives. You didn't sleep quite as well because you were looking at your phone too late. Work was unexpectedly exhausting. You had a minor argument with a coworker.
So when you get home, that massive wave of excitement from yesterday, it's completely gone, evaporated.
You look at your desk, you look at your flashcards, and you simply don't feel like studying. The mood has passed.
So, because your rule is, I study when I feel excited, and you don't feel excited, you stop. You don't study at all on day 2. You basically ghost your own textbook.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, isn't that initial excitement on day 1 actually a good thing? I mean, humans are emotional creatures.
We are.
Without that huge, fiery burst of motivation and excitement, we might never buy the textbook. We might never start that 2-hour session at all.
That's a fair point.
It feels wonderful to be excited about a new project. Doesn't excitement have a place in the learning process?
That's a very common pushback. Let's be clear. The emotion of excitement itself isn't a bad thing. Enjoying the start of a project is great.
Okay, so where does it go wrong?
The fatal problem arises with the belief that the excitement is a required ingredient to do the actual work.
I see.
When you subconsciously link the physical action of studying strictly to the emotional feeling of excitement, you create a massive vulnerability in your plan.
You're basically teaching your brain a very dangerous rule. We only do hard things when they feel fun and exciting.
And unfortunately, achieving difficult long-term goals is frequently very boring and not fun at all.
Right, the novelty wears off. I want to give our listeners a way to visualize this dynamic. Let's use an analogy.
Go for it.
Motivation is exactly like the weather. Sometimes it is beautiful, bright, and sunny. And when it's sunny, going outside for a long walk is incredibly easy and highly enjoyable.
It requires zero effort to convince yourself to go outside.
Exactly. But think about your actual life. You wouldn't cancel all of your important life plans just because the weather gets cloudy or it starts to rain, right?
No, of course not.
You don't call your boss and say, sorry, I can't come to work today, it's raining. You still go to the grocery store. You still pick up your kids. You still do the things that matter, regardless of the weather.
I think that weather analogy perfectly captures the reality of the situation. Successful language learners and successful people in any field take action, even when the weather inside their own mind is terrible.
They don't wake up, look out their mental window, see a cloudy, unmotivated mood, and decide to just stay in bed and abandon their goals.
Right. They grab a mental umbrella, they put on their boots, and they go do the work anyway.
So this brings us to the ultimate pivot point of our conversation. If waiting for the perfect sunny motivation weather only leads to being frustrated and inconsistent, how do we actually fix this?
What do successful people actually do behind the scenes?
Well, the research points to a completely new strategy. Successful people solve this problem by fundamentally reversing the order of operations.
Reversing the order of operations. This is where our findings shift from understanding the problem to providing a very practical, concrete solution.
Most people in the world operate on a very specific, flawed formula.
First, I feel motivated, and then because of that feeling, I take action.
But we found that the surprising, undeniable truth of human psychology is actually the exact opposite. Action comes first, and motivation comes later.
Let's make sure that lands.
Let me repeat that for our listeners, because if you only remember one sentence from this entire audio lesson, it should be this one. Action comes first, motivation comes later.
You physically do the task, and then, after you've started, you finally feel the emotional desire to do the task.
I know it sounds entirely crazy and backwards, but it is how the human brain is wired to work.
Let's dive into the actual brain mechanism behind this so we understand why it works, rather than just saying it's a magic trick.
Okay, let's hear the science.
When you are sitting comfortably on the couch watching television, not wanting to study English, your brain is in a state of rest. And biologically, your brain wants to conserve energy.
It wants to stay at rest.
Exactly. The friction to change tasks is incredibly high. But the moment you force yourself to start doing something, even if it's just opening a book for 2 minutes, your brain is forced to wake up.
It has to engage with the new material.
You start processing the visual information, decoding the language, and your brain's executive function actually takes over. It becomes more focused.
Let's organically explain that word, focus, because we use it a lot.
Yes, good idea.
When we say your brain becomes focused, we mean it stops being scattered. It stops being distracted by 100 different thoughts.
It stops thinking about the TV show or what you want to cook for dinner.
Right, or the argument you had at work. To focus means to direct all of your mental energy and attention onto one single point.
But here is the massive secret that most people don't know.
Your brain usually only locks onto the task and finds that deep focus after the physical action has already begun, not before.
Exactly. The focus is a reward for taking the action. Once you force yourself through that initial friction to take action, the focus arrives.
And once the deep focus arrives, a very interesting chemical process happens.
Your brain starts releasing small amounts of dopamine because you are engaged in a task. You begin to feel better about what you are doing.
You might even start to genuinely enjoy it.
And that, right there, 10 minutes into the task, is the exact moment the feeling of motivation finally appears. The action literally creates the motivation.
Let's walk the listener through a highly specific practical example from our research to show exactly how to implement this in daily life.
We call this the 5-minute rule.
Imagine it's 8:00 p.m. on a Tuesday. You are physically exhausted. You absolutely do not want to study English.
The thought of opening your grammar textbook feels like a terrible punishment.
You have zero motivation, and your brain is screaming at you to just open YouTube instead.
This is the critical moment. Instead of giving up and listening to that unmotivated mood, you deploy the 5-minute rule.
You make a tiny, incredibly low-stakes bargain with yourself.
You say, I am only going to study for exactly 5 minutes. That's it. Just 5 minutes on the clock.
If I still completely hate it after those 5 minutes are up, I give myself full permission to close the book and watch YouTube with zero guilt.
So you sit down and you start. You open the book, you read the very first paragraph.
Let's look at the timeline of those 5 minutes. At minute 1, it feels highly annoying. You are resisting it.
At minute 2, you are still tired. Your eyes feel heavy.
But right around minute 3 or minute 4, something invisible shifts in your brain. You read an English word you actually recognize.
You perfectly understand a complex sentence. Your brain engages with the puzzle of the language.
By the time the timer goes off at 5 minutes, you are no longer thinking about how tired your legs are or how much you want to watch videos.
You are entirely focused on the English concepts right in front of you.
And our research shows that in almost every single case, after those initial 5 minutes of forced friction, it becomes significantly easier to just continue.
Why? Because you are already sitting at the desk. The textbook is already open. The pencil is in your hand.
The hardest part, the transition from doing nothing to doing something, is completely over.
Well, so you naturally keep going. You might intend to do 5 minutes, but you end up studying for 30 minutes or an hour, all because you engineered that initial 5 minutes of action to bypass your lack of motivation.
Here's where it gets really interesting. What we realize from looking at this 5-minute rule is a profound, almost philosophical truth about human nature.
Starting is the hardest part.
Continuing is actually quite easy. We spend so much emotional and mental energy just avoiding the start line. We build it up in our heads to be this massive mountain we have to climb.
It's cognitive friction. Going from a state of rest to a state of effort requires a massive spike in mental energy.
It's like pushing a heavy car that has broken down.
Yes. Getting it to roll those first few inches takes all of your physical strength.
But once the car is finally rolling, staying in motion requires very little effort. You can just push it with one hand.
I want you to think about your own life for a second, listener. Think about a time you deeply dreaded starting a necessary task.
Maybe it was doing your annual taxes or deep cleaning your messy kitchen.
Or writing a very difficult email to a client that you really didn't want to write. You probably delayed it for hours, maybe even days. You stressed about it constantly.
But once you finally forced yourself to sit down at the keyboard and type the first sentence, didn't you immediately realize it wasn't actually so bad?
The mental anticipation and the fear of the task was 100 times worse than the actual task itself.
That dread is the illusion of motivation. It makes you fear the start. It tricks you into thinking the entire process will be as painful as the very first second.
The brilliant thing about the 5-minute rule is that it completely destroys that fear because it makes the start ridiculously small.
Anyone, no matter how tired or unmotivated they are, can survive doing something for just 5 minutes. So if starting is indeed the hardest part, and the 5-minute rule is the clever psychological trick that helps us bypass our brain's resistance to starting, what keeps the fire burning over the long term?
Because let's be honest, you can't just trick your brain every single day for the next 5 years.
Right. Eventually, the trick loses its novelty. You need a much stronger, more permanent foundation to stand on.
And that brings us to the core trait you must develop: discipline.
This is exactly where we move away from temporary daily hacks and start talking about permanent identity changes.
If you genuinely want to succeed at learning a language, instead of waiting for motivation, you must shift your entire focus to building discipline.
When we looked at the data on highly successful individuals, we found they defined discipline very clearly and very simply.
Discipline is the act of doing something regularly, consistently, even when you absolutely do not feel like doing it.
Let's pause and really look at this word, discipline.
For a B2 English learner, this word often carries a lot of heavy, negative cultural baggage. Oh, definitely. When a lot of people hear the word discipline, they instantly think of punishment.
They picture a very strict, angry school teacher yelling at a student for talking in class, or a military drill sergeant screaming orders at soldiers in the mud.
They associate discipline with pain and restriction.
Yes, the word certainly has that definition in certain contexts, but that is absolutely not the way we are using it in the realm of personal growth.
In the context of learning and self-improvement, discipline is not about punishing yourself at all.
It is entirely about self-control.
It is the profound ability to regulate your own behavior so that you can achieve the things you actually deeply want in the future, rather than just doing what feels comfortable right now.
Exactly. It's about designing habits. Let's contrast the two concepts we've been discussing.
As we established, motivation is a temporary feeling. It comes and goes like a gentle breeze.
You cannot build a house on a breeze. Discipline, on the other hand, is a permanent behavior. It is a solid, concrete foundation you build in your life.
To be a disciplined person means you make a promise to yourself, like, I will practice my English today. And you keep that promise no matter what your mood is doing.
I think a much more accurate metaphor for how this works inside your life is to think about the difference between a thermometer and a thermostat in your house.
I love this analogy. Motivation is just a thermometer.
A thermometer simply hangs on the wall and reacts to the temperature of the room. If the room is hot, the thermometer goes up. If the room is cold, the thermometer goes down. But discipline is a thermostat. A thermostat is a system. You set the thermostat to 72 degrees.
If the house gets too cold, the thermostat automatically turns on the furnace to heat things up.
It doesn't care what the weather is outside. It forces the environment to match the goal.
Oh, that is a brilliant way to understand it. Discipline turns on the furnace when your mood is cold.
Let's look at a specific real-world example from our research to see this thermostat in action. We call this the 7 p.m. habit.
Let's say you decide, as a rule, that you are going to study English every single day at 7 p.m.
Let's walk through a fictional week. Monday rolls around at 7:00 p.m. You had a great day. You feel highly motivated.
Fantastic. You sit down and study.
Tuesday arrives at 7:00 p.m. You are exhausted from work. You do not want to study.
But you sit down and study anyway.
Wednesday comes. You are slightly annoyed because you missed your favorite TV show.
You sit down and study anyway.
Why? Not because you feel the magical spark of motivation. You do it simply because it is 7:00 p.m. and studying at 7:00 p.m. is your established habit.
It is simply who you are and what you do at that specific time of day.
That is the essence of discipline in action. Notice what it does. It completely removes the exhausting decision-making process.
On Tuesday at 7 p.m., you don't have to sit on the couch and ask yourself 100 times, do I feel like studying today? Should I study now or maybe tomorrow morning? Am I too tired?
The answer to all those questions does not matter. The clock strikes 7:00 p.m. and you just act.
Emphasize this profound truth for yourself. This exact behavior-taking action, despite your fluctuating feelings, is the only thing that creates real, measurable progress over years of study.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, discipline is the ultimate bridge.
Imagine you are standing on the edge of a deep, fast-moving river. On your side of the river is your desire. I really want to be fluent in English.
On the far side of the river is your reality. The future version of you, easily conversing with native speakers, watching movies without subtitles.
Motivation might make you stand on the riverbank and look longingly at the other side. Motivation might make you draw a picture of a bridge.
But discipline is the heavy, repetitive, unglamorous engineering work of actually driving the steel pillars into the bedrock, laying down the wood, and walking across that bridge step by step, day after rainy day, until you finally reach the other side.
And a bridge isn't built with magic, right? It's built with engineering.
Which brings up a very practical, urgent question from our listeners. We have clearly established that discipline is the goal. We want to be the thermostat. We want to build the bridge.
But how does a normal, tired, incredibly busy person with a job and a family actually build discipline?
You don't just wake up on a Thursday, look in the mirror, and declare, I am now a highly disciplined master of my own destiny, and suddenly every hard task becomes effortless.
No, absolutely not. Willpower alone is finite. It runs out very quickly.
And that leads us directly into the next vital phase of our research. building systems, not feelings.
You do not build discipline through sheer willpower or emotional intensity. You build discipline by designing and utilizing concrete, unbreakable systems.
This is a crucial distinction we need to make. We really need to clearly separate feelings from systems.
As we've discussed extensively for the past half hour, motivation is purely a feeling. It happens deep inside your emotional center. It's biological weather.
Systems, however, are entirely different. Systems are external, physical actions that you set up and repeat.
They're entirely logical. They don't care about your emotions.
Exactly. Let's make sure the word systems is completely clear in this context.
For a B2 listener, the word system might initially sound very cold and technical.
You might hear it and immediately think of a complex computer network or a complicated security system with cameras and passcodes.
But in everyday conversational English, when we talk about personal development and habits, a system is simply a clear, highly repeatable plan of action.
It is a strict set of personal rules you create for your own life that entirely removes the need to make a decision in the moment.
Removing the decision is the superpower here. Decision fatigue is a real psychological phenomenon.
Every time you have to decide whether or not to study, you drain your brain's battery.
When you have a strong system, you do not have to think. You don't negotiate with yourself. You just follow the predetermined plan.
In our research, we identified 3 exact, highly effective systems that are essentially cheat codes for English learners.
These are systems designed to help you continue absorbing the language, even on your worst, most exhausted, lowest motivation days.
Let's look closely at the first one.
System number 1 is incredibly straightforward. Study English for exactly 20 minutes every single day.
Notice the language here. Notice how incredibly specific it is.
The system does not say, study English a lot. It does not say, try to study when you have some free time this weekend.
A lot and free time are vague concepts. Vague concepts fail.
It is a precise, measurable rule. 20 minutes every single day, no exceptions.
And why exactly 20 minutes? Why not an hour?
Because this system is specifically designed to be achievable even on a terrible day.
If your system is, I must sit down and study for 3 hours every night, you will absolutely fail on the days you are tired.
And then you will feel guilty, and that guilt will make you quit entirely.
But literally everyone on earth can find 20 minutes. You can do 20 minutes while dinner's in the oven.
It is long enough to actually make neurological progress with the language, but it is short enough to completely eliminate all of your brain's excuses. It is a robust, fail-proof system.
System number 2 from our findings. Listen to an English podcast while walking or commuting.
This is an absolutely brilliant system because it utilizes a psychological concept called habit stacking.
Habit stacking is when you take a brand new habit you want to build, like listening to English, and you stack it directly on top of an old habit you already do automatically every day without thinking.
You don't need to generate extra motivation to find new time in your busy schedule to study.
You just put your headphones on during the walk to the train you already take every morning. The commute itself becomes the system.
It's automatic. It guarantees daily exposure to the rhythm of the language.
Even if you are tired and not actively taking notes, even if you are just looking out the window of the bus, your brain is subconsciously processing the sounds, the pronunciation, and the natural flow of English.
And let's look at the third system we uncovered. Practice speaking out loud 3 times a week.
Once again, the sheer power of this is found in the specific, repeatable nature of the plan. It's not speak more. It's a hard metric. 3 times a week.
Let's create a vivid analogy to really lock in how these systems function compared to relying on motivation.
I love analogies.
Imagine you are driving a car entirely off-road in a wild, dense, muddy forest. There are no roads.
You have to constantly look out for falling trees, massive rocks, and deep mud puddles.
You have to make 1,000 split-second decisions every single minute about which way to turn the steering wheel just to avoid crashing.
You are gripping the wheel, sweating, stressed.
That massive drain of mental and physical energy, that is exactly what it feels like to live your life relying on motivation. You are constantly fighting the environment.
But a system is like a massive heavy train locked securely onto steel train tracks.
The heavy track is already built. The path is completely clear. The destination is already decided.
When you are the conductor of a train on a track, you do not have to steer. You do not have to make any frantic decisions about whether to go left or right.
All you have to do is provide a tiny spark to turn on the engine, using that 5-minute rule we talked about.
And the steel tracks naturally guide you perfectly, safely, and inevitably to your final destination.
That is exactly it. Systems are the steel tracks of your life.
They help you continue moving forward, even on the days you feel completely terrible, because the tracks are physically there holding your weight.
You just put in the bare minimum effort to keep the engine hunting, and the predetermined system does the vast majority of the heavy lifting for you.
Having laid out the solutions so clearly for our listeners, we know the neuroscience of why we need action first. We know the permanent power of discipline, and we know exactly how to build systems like the 20-minute rule to support that discipline. We have to address one final, incredibly stubborn psychological roadblock.
Because there is always one last excuse.
What is the final lie that stops intelligent people from implementing these life-changing systems right now, today?
Yes. The final boss you have to defeat in your own mind.
In all of our behavioral research, we found one incredibly common, insidious excuse that people use to delay starting their systems.
They say to themselves and to others, I'll start when I feel ready.
I'll start when things finally calm down at the office.
I'll start on Monday morning, because Monday is a clean slate.
I'll start on the first of the new year.
I'll start when I finally buy the perfect notebook and clean my desk.
We beautifully convince ourselves that there is a magical, peaceful time somewhere in the future where all the conditions of our life will be absolutely perfect, and then it will be effortless to take action.
We call this the perfect moment myth.
And the harsh, undeniable truth is that the perfect moment simply does not exist. Life is fundamentally messy.
Life is loud and busy. There will always be a new, stressful project at work.
Someone in your family will always need your attention. There will always be a new distraction on your phone.
If you condition yourself to wait for the perfect moment of calm to start working on your goals, you're actively choosing to wait forever.
This raises an important question for you, the listener. I want you to be really honest with yourself right now. How many hours, days, or even years of your life have you permanently lost waiting to feel ready?
Think back over the last 12 months. How many times did you consciously delay practicing your English or applying for that new job or starting that project simply because the moment wasn't quite perfect?
That lost time compounds. The perfectionism isn't actually about high standards. It is a psychological shield.
It is an illusion that protects your ego from the hard, uncomfortable work of just starting.
We want to remind you directly, as clearly as possible, you do not need to feel ready.
You do not need to feel a surge of motivation. You just need to start.
It is completely okay if you start messy. It is okay if your pronunciation is terrible today.
It is okay if you only have 5 minutes of energy left before bed.
Starting poorly, starting awkwardly, starting while exhausted is mathematically 1,000 times better than not starting at all.
Action is the only metric that reality rewards.
Let's focus on one final vital piece of English language nuance here before we wrap up.
Throughout this conversation, we have used the phrase temporary feeling to describe motivation. Let's ensure the full gravity of that phrase is clear to you.
A temporary feeling is an emotion that exists for a very short, fleeting period of time, and then it completely disappears into nothing.
Anger is temporary. A spike of excitement is temporary. Physical hunger is temporary.
And as we have thoroughly established through all the psychology and research today, motivation is purely a temporary feeling.
Think of the structural integrity of your goals.
If you attempt to build a massive, life-changing goal like becoming completely fluent in a complex new language, and you try to balance the enormous weight of that giant goal on a foundation made of something temporary,
the goal will inevitably collapse. It is a guaranteed recipe for failure. You cannot build a permanent, enduring house on ground that washes away in the rain.
Which brings us to the grand summary of our key takeaways from this entire conversation. We want to clearly synthesize our personal insights for you so you can carry them forward.
First and foremost, you must finally accept the truth that motivation is not the magic key to your success.
It is not the secret ingredient you've been missing. It is a mirage.
It is just a temporary, unreliable mood that comes and goes based on how well you slept or how stressful your commute was. Stop worshiping it.
Real, lasting, life-altering progress only comes from 3 concrete things.
Number 1, consistency. The act of showing up over and over again, regardless of the weather.
Number 2, discipline. The thermostat. Doing the hard work even when you absolutely do not feel like it because you made a promise to your future self.
And number 3, small daily actions. using unthinking systems like the 5-minute rule or habit stacking on your daily walk to keep your heavy train moving forward on the steel tracks.
The overarching message we want you to absorb today is to stop waiting. Stop looking out the mental window hoping for perfect motivation weather.
Is it raining in your mind? Go out anyway.
Are you exhausted from a long day? Open the book for 5 minutes anyway.
Start the physical action, force the friction, and the motivation will eventually catch up and follow behind you.
So what does this all mean for you right in this exact moment as you listen to this ESL listening practice?
It means you are actually already doing it. Think about it.
By hitting play on this audio today and listening to this complex English conversation all the way to the end, you took action.
Maybe you felt highly motivated when you pressed play, or maybe you didn't and you just forced yourself to do it. But you took the action anyway.
That is the system working perfectly. And our challenge to you is to carry this exact system into tomorrow and the next day and the day after that.
You possess all the tools now. You understand the deep nuance of the vocabulary. Unreliable, inconsistent, focused, discipline systems.
You understand the hidden neurology behind why action creates motivation through dopamine and executive function. You know how to build the tracks.
Now, it is no longer a question of knowledge. It is simply a matter of execution.
We want to leave you with a provocative final thought. Something for you to deeply mull over as you finish your walk or your commute or whatever you are doing right now.
I want you to imagine a completely different version of your reality. What would happen to your English goals? And truthfully, what would happen to the entire trajectory of your life if you completely remove the word motivation from your vocabulary starting today?
Imagine that. What if you literally never allowed yourself to use the word motivation again, and the only word you were allowed to use to describe your progress was the word action?
Think about how much unbelievable power and control you would instantly take back from the random universe.
Don't sit around in the dark waiting for the magical spark. Be the spark yourself. Keep taking action, keep building your systems, and we'll see you next time.